I'm Carol.
And I'm Carolyn.
And I teach high school English.
And I teach high school drama.
And when we are not caught up in the drama of our own drama.
Right. We're out seeing shows in the community, all out throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And even New York.
Yes, actually.
Right? And this week we have a great show that we want to talk about.
Yes.
Let's see if everyone can guess what it is.
Because Grateful Bites in Flemington did the cake for this week's show, and we want to thank them. Look at that.
That is that. Now, can everyone guess what the show was?
It's Saturday Night Fever.
It was Saturday Night Fever at the Surflight
Theater in
Beach Haven.
Beach Haven.
And before we get too carried away, I also want to give a shout out to Studio 63, who did some photography for us and who does photography for Surflight.
Yes.
And, you know, so it was great and they were very helpful. We had no idea what we were driving to when we left Cherry Hill.
Well, first of all, it's New Jersey in the summer. And the beach towns are fantastic.
Right.
And it
was typical Jersey Shore. Like, you know.
Well, it was a little, I mean, it's not a boardwalk town.
Correct.
But it is a lovely town.
And you know, we were driving and it was not a bad drive from Cherry Hill. It took us about an hour and 20 minutes maybe to get there. And we were driving into, you know, you go through Long Beach Island, you go through Surf City, you know, and you go through Ship Bottom, and we were, you know, we got into Beach Haven, and there is this theater in Beach Haven that is literally a block
on the beach.
You know, it's
just
a
about
block
on the beach
from the beach. It is a great space.
Professional equity house.
Seats about 450 people, so there's not a bad seat in the house.
Not at all.
And we were very lucky because Steve Steiner gave us a tour.
Yes,
afterwards.
He is the producing artistic director,
whatever he is.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, he took us around, and so you know, there's a costume shop and they have a set, a
rehearsal space. They have housing for their actors because their actors come down and do the whole summer season. And it was just, what is the most important thing that I must get when I go to the shore?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. And they actually have their own ice cream parlor where actors, the understudies, I believe, are singing in the ice cream parlor.
So it's like a shore version of Ellen's Stardust Diner in New York, right?
Yes.
Because the waiters and waitresses sing and perform while you're eating. And you and I couldn't remember the name of the ice cream place that used to be in Merchantville, right?
Right.
But it's like that with the old player piano and they're in
singing
there,
waiters.
You know, like singing waiters and the red and white striped, candy cane outfits and the hats and the white pants and all. And I still can't think of the name of that. But we used to go there in high school.
Yeah, we did. And so it was really incredible. But we really should talk about this show.
We really should.
Because I have to tell you, now I remember when Saturday Night Fever came out in the movies.
Right.
Because I was quite young.
Well, I was not that young. It was 1977, and I was 15.
So I was... Well, I had to be like 12. And I remember it was rated R. And it was the movie my mother took me to.
Yeah.
And I had no recollection of the movie. I had to rewatch it again after we saw the musical. But as soon as I saw the musical, I mean, that is an iconic album. Like, you had to have that album when you were young, the Saturday Night Fever. And so to sit in the theater and listen to the Bee Gees again.
And I have to say, that was not I saw the movie, I probably at some point was in love with John Travolta. And I got to say this about John Travolta because you and I were talking about it. It made me feel so much better to know that even John Travolta got fat. Okay? Yeah. Because when you see him playing Tony Manaro in that opening scene and he's walking down, the street and his waist is this big, my thigh is bigger and he is this thin and he's thin. And he's young. He was young.
And we can say this. And I'm going to give a shout out to the Tony and Surflight, John Garagna, who was phenomenal. Yeah. Like he was Tony.
He was.
And what for me what was great was he didn't try to copy John Travolta.
No.
He made him he created that character. He made him more of, he was a Brooklyn, we used to, talk about that in high school. You had the greasers.
Right.
Like in that book that you don't like that I like, The Outsiders.
The Outsiders,
right. I love The Outsiders, and Carol hates The Outsiders, but they were called The Greasers. And so he was just fantastic.
He was a great dancer.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
they were all the dancing, the choreography in the show was spectacular.
Right. And I forgot, because I watched it too. Like you and I talked about it, you know, we saw the show, you know, and we wanted to re-see the movie. And disco was not my movie genre of choice.
Right.
But, you know, I forgot how important that movie really was, right?
And I did a little background. So when I watched it, again, there was a lot of stuff I didn't get when I was 12 years old.
Right.
And probably good that I didn't get when I was 12 years old.
Right.
But one of the things that I read was they re-released it in '79 as a PG movie because they needed teenagers to come out. They couldn't go to the R movie.
Right.
And that's what kind of made the album and the music explode.
Right.
So it had 2 releases, which is really interesting.
Well, I know.
And now I think the Broadway play came out in 1999.
But it was it opened at West End,
right?
All right, and then it was redone several times. So there's several renditions of the musical, and I had seen the musical before, before we saw it, and I remember saying to you, it's just like the movie.
It is,
right, and then the dialogue is you're comparing.
Well,
the
then
two.
you have that dinner scene. At the beginning when he puts his shirt on and they're all slapping each other, and the only person missing is the grandmother character from the show, but she's not necessary.
She never speaks in the movie.
She never speaks in the movie, and she's just kind of there for comic relief actually in the movie. But that was right out of the movie.
He and you laugh when you hear some of these things because he says, why are you, because the dad keeps hitting him in the head, and he said, I spend all this time on my hair and you keep hitting it and messing up, and it's funny. It's not funny, but it was funny, right? Because that was the time we all spent hours on our hair, and
right.
But what I realized seeing it now, and I don't know if it's because I'm an adult or because I was just in a different frame of mind, that on the surface when you think about it, it's like a superficial movie about disco, right? But it's not. They talked about some really heavy duty, or they sort of incorporated some really heavy duty things. And what I really liked about the musical, and I really liked it, is that opening where they have all these characters are there, and they're talking about, it's the summer and it's the sun, and they bring up Son of Sam, and they bring up the blackout and the riots, and they bring up these murders that happen in New York at that time, and it's sort of there's sort of this contrast between what's happening out in the real world
and his reality of the disco,
and what's happening in this sort of superficial world, and I have this remembrance of Tony being this sort of superficial guy, but what you realize is he isn't. There's a deepness to him, and I think that the actor brought that out.
I have to say, the young lady who played Stephanie, Erica Barton, was really good. Yeah. I actually liked her better than the Stephanie in the movie.
Yeah.
First of all, she was a far superior dancer, but she handled the part so well in terms of creating this girl who's kind of getting away from, Brooklyn and being more of a, she's going to go to Manhattan. She's going to be more refined.
Well, and there's this scene there, and I really like the scene in the musical, and I thought they really did a really good job of it, where Stephanie and Tony are on their first date, right? And she's trying so hard not to be Brooklyn, right? And she talks about she's going to order tea because all these sophisticated women she works with drink tea with lemon, right? And they're talking about she saw Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, and he said, "Oh, you mean Shakespeare?" And she's like, "No, not Shakespeare, Zeffirelli." and you realize that there's this such need to get out of to get out of Brooklyn. He wants to get out, and
Right.
and there's a scene where he recognizes that this job that he has, you know, I mean, the song, you know, life's going nowhere, right?
Right.
You know, and all they're trying to do is stay alive in this place where life is going to take them nowhere.
Well, and what's interesting is on the way home from the musical, when we were talking about it, because it was so fantastic.
Yeah.
You talked about the scene. For you, I think you talked about the scene where they're sitting on the park bench and
Yes.
he's giving her all this information about the bridge,
Right.
which again happens in the
movie,
film,
yeah.
and it's such an important scene.
Yeah.
At that moment, to know that he's not really as superficial as you think.
He isn't, and you see him breaking away from the boys,
Right.
Right, and he even says to them at some point, "You're also immature. Like, just grow up." And
Right.
and you feel this sort of sense of being trapped, and
Right.
I for me it came out much more in the musical, and I don't know, than it did in the movie, right?
Well, and you're right. And the thing about the musical, I think that people need to know, is it's not like the movie. So my recollection of the movie, as a 12-year-old, I really missed a lot. I mean,
Right.
talk about, you know, in the film, you know, and the character of Annette, she's in love with him, but she gets gang raped in the car.
Yeah.
And Tony is sitting there while it's happening, you know, and then Bobby, who, you know, we were talking about this on the way up,
Yeah.
that nobody listens to Bobby, and that really in the musical, you know, he's trying to help Annette, and he dies.
Right.
Where in the film, you know, it's a suicide.
It's suicide.
So those moments are kind of taken out of the musical, and I don't think it affects affects the story. Actually, we had this discussion. I don't like Bobby in the movie. I didn't.
Well, I felt bad for him.
Well,
told you. Yeah,
I don't even feel bad for him, but I really liked Bobby in the musical.
Yeah.
Brad Betros, because what's interesting about Bobby is that he gets his girlfriend Pauline pregnant. And Pauline we never meet Pauline in the film. We never see her.
Right.
But here in the movie, I mean in the musical, we actually see her. She's a character,
and she's not this sort of, you know, and when you see this character, she's not sort of this desperate woman,
right,
who's pregnant and has no options, and she's sort of chasing him down. You see her and she's trying to find him, and really she just wants to tell him, like, you know, she just wants to say, and she tells him, and there doesn't ever seem to be this time for the character, and I think the actress does a really great job of doing this, of not making her seem desperate.
No.
Right? Whereas in that time, and this is what I really sort of, and I really believe it's because I saw it as an adult, right?
Right.
And when I saw the Broadway musical, when I saw it the first time, I was an adult, but I don't remember it having the same impact that it did on me this time, where you're really looking at what they're really, the commentary that they have about society at the time, right? And these people that were trapped in their lives, and
right,
you know, there's the
father's out of work for 7 months, and
right, you know, and the women are, you know, like Tony's mother, that's her role, she's the mother, and that's it. And you see these women who are trying to, you know, Stephanie's trying to be something else, and you know, there's this conversation about abortion, and there's conversation about sex, right?
Right,
you know,
but the abortion, you know, that doesn't happen in the musical. He ends up marrying her, you know. Well, he intends to marry her. Bobby intends to marry Pauline.
But there was the conversation, should she or shouldn't she, right? Like, you know, there's all those different things. And at the time when that was all happening, I thought they did a really, really good job of making this something more than just a musical with some disco songs in it.
I agree. Like, I found it to be, I was really engaged in the musical the whole time I was watching it. But I'm going to go back to the choreography was just fantastic. The dancers, I mean, the whole ensemble and the cast were all strong dancers.
And then when they are doing the one number where they're dancing to, is it maybe it's You Should Be Dancing, when
Yeah.
they're all in the disco,
Yes.
and they're doing this dance number, the dance quick, you know, it's complicated,
Right.
and there was not one weak
No.
person in
And
that.
so the director and choreographer is Karen Babcock-Brassier, and she just, I just thought the transitions, that was the other thing.
Yeah.
When they were transitioning from scene to scene,
Yeah.
was so nice and
Yeah.
smooth, really simple set. But we were talking about this as well. Best part, so I watched the musical and, you know, I go home and I watch the movie, and the sign for 2001 Odyssey for the disco is exactly the same. Like it was just, that was great. The costumes for the show.
They were awesome.
Right.
And even the lighting, they have the backdrop comes down and it's all of the cellophane, you know, and everything,
Right.
and they have the disco ball. And there's this one scene where it's lit and it's green and red and all these different colors, and it was really, really.
Yeah, but the costumes were, you know, right on the money. So I'm sitting there thinking, I don't like the dress Stephanie's wearing at the end. Lo and behold, it's the exact dress that she wore in the film.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like in the film,
Yeah.
but that's my choice. But
Yeah.
like they really nailed those kind of the white suit. You got to have the iconic white suit, the big wide collars, the high-waisted men's pants.
Right.
You know, that was part of that whole disco look.
Right.
And so that was,
And you know, the Brooklyn strut. You know,
Brooklyn
the actor
strut.
got the Brooklyn strut down.
he was just, I thought all the guys were really, really good.
My favorite number, actually,
Was the four.
is that Dog Eat Dog, where they're all standing there
Right.
singing, and that is not a song that's in the movie. It was,
No.
you know, and I thought, you know, the harmony was unbelievable. The lyrics to the song really sum up what the whole idea behind the movie was about, and you could hear each one of them, and every single one of them had an awesome.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's another shout out to the actor Brad Beatros, who played Bobby.
Yeah.
Spectacular voice. I mean, they all had great voices. This, I was just really impressed. I can't wait to see the next show that we're seeing there.
Well, and you know, like you go down the shore,
right.
and you're not expecting to see the quality of performance that we saw there.
Well, you know, most people in our area tend to go to Atlantic City to see a show, and a lot of times those musicals aren't even full musicals. This is their season is a full season of musical. So this is opened August 7th, and it runs till August 26th. So you still have tons of time to see it. I want to. Can
we talk about Father Frank for a minute?
We can talk about Father Frank for a minute.
I want to talk about Father Frank because Father Frank is Tony's brother.
Yes, he is.
And he leaves the priesthood, which is, you know, one of the funniest lines for me is when Tony says, well, now they're going to have to take your picture down from the mantle.
Right.
Right. And as I'm watching this, and I'm coming to it with a, you know, 2018 understanding, and this is not anything against Catholicism or the Catholic Church, but you're coming to it, and there's a line in there that he says, you know, Tony says, why did you leave? And he said, well, I was living a life that wasn't me. And that's what they're all doing. They're all living lives that aren't them. And I sort of had this moment where I thought, if they were making this movie now, would it be more obvious that he was homosexual, right? And that's why he's leaving, because he can't live with that? Or was I putting my 2018 spin on something that probably wasn't there? And I, you know, it was, you know, in that moment I thought, oh, that's really what he's saying, but maybe he really wasn't saying that.
I don't know if I got that, so
okay.
I just got he wanted to, you know, that the expectation was he'd be a priest, and that wasn't what he wanted. So but I again, you know, they kept that storyline in the musical, and I like that, because that's those moments when he's with his brother, which are really important, because those are the moments you see Tony and he's like a real person.
He's a real person. Like when he's not, you know, being one of the boys, when he's just
Right.
being Tony. You like him. And there are sometimes when he's with the boys that you don't necessarily like any of them. You know?
Right. Oh, I agree.
You know, and you know me, at the end, when the balloons came down.
Oh, so we are all about balloons and confetti.
And confetti. And we had balloons come down, and we had confetti come down. And it was just like the perfect perfect
And that's
ending
the way
for
it
me.
should be for that kind of show.
Right.
Absolutely
Right.
fantastic.
And at the end, you know, they do a little thing with the curtain call where they're singing and dancing, and you know, and
It was
fun.
I thought
fun.
they were coming out into the audience, and I thought, please don't. I might sing a little. Who knows? You
Well,
never
I was
know.
singing. I always am singing.
I like singing along because it's all the songs we know.
Right. So and next time we're going to go see Bright Star there.
Right. So you still have, again, a chance to see it at Surflight Theater in Beach Haven. Don't miss Saturday Night Fever. And I want to give a shout out to Michaela Hall and Brian Wayman for subscribing to our YouTube channel.
Yep. And next time we'll go in and sit down and have ice cream.
Okay,
Okay.
we will. But right now, I really kind of want to eat this cake.
All right. Are you gonna cut off John Travolta's?
Well, I'm just going to taste it right here.
Okay.
Until next time,
All
break
right.
a leg. Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to eat John.